David Brister here with another episode of Scales and Tales, and this is Pentatonic Mastery. And definitely the pentatonic scale in music is one of the most common and frequently heard scales, whether it's minor pentatonic or major pentatonic. And depending on, what style of music you're interested in and, what you want to explore with music, it's really hard to learn a song or study music and not encounter the scale somewhere. It's everywhere. This lesson is the direct result from some messages and comments that I've received at this channel for late night lessons. And whether you realize it or not, I'm reading every message, I'm reading every comment, and I'm kind of making a little list of groups and artists and topics that are being brought up. And I've had a lot of requests about tone. It seems like a lot of you, want to know, what amp I'm using and talk a little bit about, tone and effects. I've even had questions about the picks on the wall behind me here. So it's good to know that some of the viewers out there are really paying attention, and you're not only, staring at my picks and trying to figure out what amp it is, but you're also working on the material too, which is great. So thank you. So in this lesson, we're going to basically target minor pentatonic, and we can flip that to major pentatonic, but I'm just going to go ahead and reveal, or kind of confess, I guess. I'm a minor key musician. I love minor keys. And it's not to say I don't play in major keys or I haven't written music or performed music in major keys. It's just honestly, and I'm just being totally honest, this is me, this may not fit you, but I'm not really a big fan of happy music, and it's not that I'm depressing or something like that. It's just pop music and happy classical music and bright country and, these happy, let's go to the beach and have a picnic in the sun kind of songs. I don't listen to that music at all. I'm going to start this in the key of A, but then we're going to change keys because it's always shown in the key of A. And that makes sense because there's no sharps or flats, and it's really easy to see, A minor or C major, because you're just dealing with pure notes, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. So, a few things about the minor pentatonic scale itself. Yeah, it is a 5-note scale, and you can think of it that way. A, C, D, E, G would be the notes there in the key of A minor. Now, another way you can think of that scale is you can think of that as a minor 11 arpeggio. And you might be thinking, what? It's a 5-note scale, or you could also think of it as a 5-note arpeggio. So a minor 7th arpeggio in the key of A, or A minor, would be A, C, E, G, right? Those are the 4 notes we need, for a minor 7th chord, which transforms into a minor 7 arpeggio. So if you think of that minor 7 arpeggio, and we're just adding the note D, that's really a different way of kind of viewing the scale. It's a 5-note scale, a 5-note arpeggio, and you can kind of, use that as you build licks and phrases and sequences. Kind of think of it either way. So what we're going to do is we're going to move away from A. Mainly, there's a few reasons why. Like I said, it's always shown in the key of A. So, moving it to another key may be beneficial for some of you that have only learned this in A, and maybe you haven't relocated it yet. But another reason why we're going to move it is I want you to actually really be able to see all 5 shapes or positions of this scale. So if we started in A, we would actually have a shape, or 2 below that scale. And then, the series of shapes, kind of moving up the fretboard. So what we're going to do is we're going to move the box, which I'm going to call that shape 1. And I know in some books and methods out there, they might refer to that as a different shape. I've seen it listed as shape 4 and some other, they've kind of labeled it other things. But I'm going to call that shape 1, mainly because it starts on the root. It's the most common and popular, minor pentatonic scale on the planet. So in my mind, since everybody already kind of knows that shape, whether they know what it is or not, and it begins on the root, I'm going to call that shape 1, just to kind of keep this simple. And we're also going to move that shape, or the box, to the lowest available position without open strings. So I'm not going to worry about incorporating the open strings yet. Later on down the road, you definitely want to try, minor pentatonics with open strings, so you can grab all those cool, open position blues licks and Stevie Ray Vaughan licks and stuff. But the reason we're moving this technically down to F minor is where we're going to put it, is, we're going to put it there on the first fret. And then that way you can see how it connects and how these positions, kind of move around the fretboard. And it visually will give you a very clear picture of what's going on. All right, so if we take this scale and just play the box right there, starting in the first position. There we've got F, A flat, B flat, C, E flat, and F. So, we've changed the order of notes because we've changed to a different key. It's the same scale that we were playing in A, but just relocated now to F minor. So a couple things here. If you look at, just basically if you bar the first fret there all the way across, every note in the scale is actually hiding right there. There you've got an F, A flat, B flat, C, E flat, and then F. So I know that sounds really weird, but that's every note in this scale. There are 5 notes in the scale, there are 5 different positions. So we're just building the scale shape off of every note in the scale. And there are 5 notes. So we can, obviously play it in a position like that, but let's move it up 1 string and find it this way. And there you can see the same notes, F, A flat, B flat, C, E flat, and F. Same thing, just a different way of playing it. But if you really pay attention to what we just played there, that's revealing the starting note of all 5 shapes, if we just kind of map it on the low E like that. So there's position 1. So then position 2, or shape 2, is going to start on the second note in the scale, which is that A flat. And now you have this fingering. Okay, the same notes, but a different fingering, like the shape changed. So there was the A flat, B flat, C, E flat, and F. Now continue to the next note in the scale. Now we're on B flat, and you'll have this shape. The next note in the scale, you're going to basically have that C. Next note would be E flat. And then the final note, which is an octave higher than where we started, we're back at F again. Just kind of walk through all 5 positions of the scale. And, some of you watching this may already know this information. Some of you may not know. So if you feel like you're trapped in a box, or you're finding yourself, always playing from the same scale shape, mainly that minor pentatonic shape, then this is exactly what you want to work on, because you're going to learn, some other fingerings and different versions of that scale, and it's going to change the way you play. Because I know when I was trapped in a box and I was playing everything out of that minor pentatonic shape, bending licks and all these different things that I'd learned how to do were kind of refined or just, trapped in that little fingering. And I knew a couple, slides or, lower notes or higher notes that I could kind of reach, but I really didn't know this, at that time. That was, back when I was a kid. But as I started to pick up other minor pentatonic, positions and shapes, I started making licks and phrases, and it changed the way I played, because some of those old stock licks that I had out of the box, they didn't work in the other positions. I had to make, different phrases and different licks. So it will change the way you play, which is good. So once you know all 5 positions, then you can start kind of weaving between them. And this is actually a cool warm-up or exercise that I learned from Bruce Boulay. And I've never taken a lesson from Bruce Boulay, but I did go to school at VU in Vincennes, Indiana, and that's where Bruce is from. And when I was in school there, I made a friend, and he took lessons with Bruce. And he had audio cassette copies of all these lessons that he had with Bruce. And he'd let me borrow them, and I'd take them home and I'd listen to them. And it was literally him having private lessons with Bruce Valet. And of course, I couldn't see anything, but I could hear it. And there was a lesson that he did with him where he was talking about this. And he was basically running through positions in the minor pentatonic, kind of weaving back and forth. You're just going back and forth like this. You take that idea and then weave that between all 5 positions, something like this. And you can continue. And you can just keep going up the neck, So the main thing there is you're, basically testing yourself. Do you know that position? Do you know this position? And you just kind of step your way through the scale, 2 positions at a time, which that, kind of logically makes sense, because once you've mastered them 1 at a time, then you start challenging yourself, 2 at a time. And then from here, of course, we can do all sorts of things. You can start weaving and sliding and shifting, between, positions. You can jump between positions. And there's a lot you can do with this. All right, the last idea I'm going to share here is converting those minor pentatonic shapes to the blues scale. And that's, probably the easiest modification or change we can make to this scale. So to convert, the minor pentatonic to a blues scale, we're just going to add the flat 5, which, in the key of F, C is the 5th. So we're going to play a C flat. And I know some of you out there don't like the idea of, B sharps and C flats and, E sharps and F flats and things like that, but they do exist. It's not, overly common, but when you're in, the right key at the right time and you modify the right note, you're going to have, one of those enharmonic notes. So here we're going to basically add a C flat because the scale itself already has B flat, right? So we can't really call that B sharp because we're flatting the 5th, which is going to make that a C flat. So now what we're going to do is sprinkle C flat through all those scales. So there's, the box. There's the next position right here. Make sure you grab, that C flat there. Next position right here. And then the next position. And then the final position right here. Because now we're back where we started, an octave higher. Alright, well this is just the first look at this pentatonic mastery, and I want you to work on all 5 positions of the minor pentatonic in the key of F minor, and then you can modify, and find those blues scale modifications there. Just add the flat 5 and you got the blues. So what I want you to do is work on that, because once you have that under your belt and you feel comfortable with that information, we're going to change. Like in the next, the next Scales and Tails episode, we're going to modify and change those into full-fledged, minor scales, and we'll hit, some modal sounds too. All right, we'll leave some comments and some feedback, and please subscribe to Late Night Lessons, and I'll be back with some more content and lessons before you know it. Thank you.